My name is Ian Walsh, and this is Masters of the Markets. I like to bring content to you guys for people and players in your local market space that really move and shake and get things done, that have a heavy influence on where your market's going to be tomorrow. And I really felt it was necessary and probably way overdue to have an interview with my business partner, Jason Balin. Jason, I appreciate you being on.
Thank you.
So, just some background on Jason, some people that do or don't know about Hard Money Bankers. So, Hard Money Bankers has done thousands of transactions, all of which have been through the eyes of Jason. If you've done thousands of transactions over a 10-year period, probably one of the most dominant, if not the most dominant hard money lender in the Northeast region, or call it from Maryland up through Pennsylvania and South Jersey. If you have converted on thousands of loans, that means you probably declined, call it 30 to 60,000 loans. If you've done 2,000. I mean, it's
tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands.
It's crazy. Yeah. I mean, you've seen so many deals. So for you, a lot of it's second nature and understanding what a good deal looks like. And now I know also, just obviously from being your partner, the track record is amazing for having good clients that work out on deals and, a very low default rate. In fact, the foreclosure rate's lower than banks. Most banks.
That's right.
So it's a very impressive operation. I'm very grateful to be partners with you guys, and I just, your experience. I like to think my experience is pretty good, but compared to me, you're the stud. So, with that said, Jay, talk to me about how Hard Money Bankers came to be, starting in like 2008 to 2007 or whatever and how you guys were in the middle of the crash, forming this business, giving out money at the scariest time ever to give out money. Talk to me about that.
So actually, we back up a little further into that of actually how I even learned what hard money was. And,
Okay.
a few years after college in early 2000s, I was working, I was really interested in real estate. I wasn't sure what part of real estate I was. I was bouncing around as a real estate agent, as a mortgage broker, bought a few properties. I wasn't exactly sure what part of real estate I liked the best. And then I'll never forget, I don't know when this was, '04 maybe. I worked for a mortgage company, and I was working with a borrower, and the borrower seemed to be decent, really low LTV loan, but the deal didn't work. The deal got turned down from the bank that we were going to broker it to, and my boss came to me and he said, "Hey, let me take a look at this." And I showed it to him, and he was like, "You know what? I'll fund this. We'll just fund this in-house, and you'll make your commission, you get approved." I was like, sweet, whatever that means. And later I found out that, he was the lender on the deal. He lent the guy $100,000. They set up some sort of long, whatever it was. I don't remember what the terms of the note. And we were just the lender. And I was like, I like that. Not only because I was making a commission on it, obviously, but it was one of those deals that made sense to do. Right. So fast forward a few years later, we owned a few properties, bought a few properties. And in 2007-ish, early 2007, we're like, we want to start a company. So we were thinking about starting a residential mortgage company. Thank God we didn't. And then we started Hard Money Bankers. We're like, hey, we know a lot of people that were investing in real estate. We also know a lot of people who want to buy properties and flip properties and things like that. We know a few people that had some cash, but not many, just to start with. And that was kind of it. We went out, we raised some money. We found some borrowers that wanted to flip houses. I mean, keep in mind, in 2008, when things were really low and really bad, we didn't know what we didn't know back then.
Right. The business was what it was, right?
We didn't know any better. And, a few years earlier, we made some decent money on some flips and some properties that we owned that we were living in at the time because everything was appreciating. So, it's good and bad. I mean, I guess the good part was, we started at the bottom. The bad part was it was hard to raise capital back then. But then in hindsight, the good part is, all the capital we raised, the people have been very loyal and stuck with us because we've had a really good track record ever since. So it kind of all works out. I'll tell you that it luckily, we saw other things that were going on in the mortgage business. So I think all of us, collectively, you two, Ian, have been very cautious about when the market's going to hit that top part, and is it plateauing now? Is it going to spike? Whatever the case is, it's one thing that when we started in this business, we had we didn't have a default probably for the first 200 loans that we did. I think we were just too scared.
Sure.
Too scared of what was going to happen. We picked the best of the best. So, yeah, I think part of it's just luck. It was just kind of luck that we got into the right business model at the right time. And, it was interesting. We get to look at a lot of deals. So if you're a deal junkie, it's one of those things you can look at a lot of opportunities. We were able to utilize a lot of our marketing skills, and we learned a lot about marketing because we had a market, for opportunities. So just a lot of different skill sets, learned how to raise, but a lot of different skill sets that we kind of done and learned along the way. And we realized it was like, wow, this is it. Like the business model is right for us. It works well. We really enjoy it. And since then it's just trying to grow it and, leverage up what we already know. And, unfortunately it's not a type of business model that you can just 10x or 20x or 100x like a startup or like a tech company. It's still an offline, boots on the ground. Yeah, it's one of those things that we make the final underwriting decisions. You make the final underwriting decisions in your market. I make the final underwriting decisions in my market, and I need to make sure I can sleep good at night knowing that I made the right decision. So that's never a position that I can offset or outsource to somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I don't need to. You can outsource marketing stuff, processing stuff, origination stuff, things like that. Those are okay, but it isn't a business that you can 10x or, like I said, 100x. So it's kind of growed short and, slow and steady. And I'm hoping that it'll continue to, kind of grow slow and steady. And,
So that's an interesting story. Let's do two things. Let's step back real quick. First, I'm going to ask you about a typical hard money deal. I'd like to know what that looks like, and then I'm going to ask you about where you talk about slow and steady growth, where you think the market's going. 2008 was a bottom, and multiple people believe we're closer to a top. But explain to me though first on a typical hard money deal. Very, very straightforward. Let's say I'm a flipper. I'm calling you, and I've got a deal I think I may or may not have. Let's say I don't have it yet under contract. I have a price intended. Construction numbers I know. I have a pretty good handle on them. Where do we go from here? What's the next step?
Yeah, so typically there's two types of loans. It's either fix and flip loan, either to fix and flip it and resell it, or fix it and then hold it as a rental. And we come in with acquisition and construction money, or just like a straight bridge loan where you have a free and clear rental property, you have a free commercial property, you need short-term cash. Usually it's at a slighter LTV loan to value for other business purposes, right? So typically most of these are fix and flip loans. So borrower goes, let's say they buy a property for whatever, $100,000 and needs $50,000 in work, worth 200 or so, right? We'll usually come in at 65 LTV at 200. So let's call it like $130,000 we'll lend. The borrower will bring the additional money to the table, the difference between the 130 and the 150, which is $20,000 plus their closing costs. Let's call that another 10. So in essence, we're doing a loan of $130,000 and the borrower is bringing $30,000 or $35,000 into the deal.
Supporting all the construction, financing, and all that.
Yeah, so we'll do, the reason it's very important for a lender to do a full construction reserve is that property is not worth $200,000 until it's completely fixed up, right? It's going to be, as you improve it, the value is going to increase. So for instance, if you buy a property for $100,000, it may only be worth $100,000 that day. And then it'll continue to increase as the work's getting done. That's why we do a construction reserve and we reimburse it as the work is getting completed.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. So, I mean, something I always talk to guys, people ask about leveraging money. So if I'm bringing $30,000 to get $130,000 or $150,000 to the table, and I have $300,000, are you telling me that I can multiply my buying power by 4 or 5 times what I normally? Yeah. So that's exactly what you're saying, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I know so many borrowers, and I've put together a bunch of different what are they called, like financial breakdowns based on if you're using cash or bank money or hard money or even joint venture partners. And actually, joint venture partners at a 50-50 split is the most expensive capital that you'll ever get. But regardless of that, it's one of those things that when it all comes down to it. But yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys, they have a few $100,000, right? And they want to buy properties, and they buy one, and then they're out of money, and then they miss out on opportunities. Right? They're missing out on opportunities after opportunities. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big advocate of using your own money and deploying your own cash and working it, but you cannot miss out on an opportunity. Like that is the 101 no-go of do not do not do. If you miss out on an opportunity, who knows? Even if you're raising money at 100%, at 100% interest rate, it's still maybe cheaper to do that than miss out on a good quality
Still
opportunity.
zero, right? Yeah.
So I try to encourage people to leverage it up. And if they don't need it all, then don't take it all. Don't do it all. Maybe it's like, hey, I'm running a little bit short. I need to borrow some money. Okay, we'll do it that way. I mean, as you know, the cost of hard money, 13, 14%, 3 or 4 points. If you can execute and you can move quickly on this project, it's not all that expensive.
Nah, yeah.
In a 4-month, 5-month time frame, and keep in mind, if it's taking you much more than that, chances are that it's probably not the best deal anyways. You can't execute properly.
Or you messed
It's only
up,
gonna,
yeah.
yeah, it's only gonna cost you about 10% for that money if you have it at 4 or 5 months.
Right. Yeah, and it's ease of closing, ease of money, which is huge.
Yeah.
I know in our world that a lot of people do work with us because of the fact that we're so easy to work with. It's not like you're being underwritten by a bank. I mean, you send us 3 numbers, have a phone call and a meeting, and all of a sudden you're funding in 24 hours. And you're saying, whoa, how'd that happen?
Yeah. And keep in mind that like a lot of the borrowers we work with are bankable, they have private capital, they have their own money, but
Sure.
they need that additional funding source. They need that funding source to keep the business moving.
Keep it moving, right?
I mean,
Go ahead. So
No, go
what I
ahead.
was thinking was, so now we know what a typical hard money deal looks like, but let's talk about your operation in the business itself. How are you positioning yourself, or how? I mean, I know the answer to this is for everybody, I guess, watching what we're doing, but what would you say to summarize to everybody that's going to see this, positioning ourselves moving forward into where we are in this current real estate cycle?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things, and one of the things we try to do on a macro level that I don't think a lot of people even realize in any type of business is constantly be marketing and try to have a lot more opportunities than everybody else, especially your competition. It's one of those things that we've been taking precautions of trying to be a little bit more conservative on our after repair values, making sure the borrowers we're lending to can properly execute. Sometimes even passing on opportunities that the numbers are good, but we're scared. Like our numbers are good as a lender, but a little nervous that the borrower is going to fail just because I think their numbers are a little inflated. And all of a sudden, I don't want someone walking away from their own project because they're not going to make money, because then that could jeopardize us. So like we're trying to mitigate risk with all of those things, but more importantly, we're just doubling up on marketing and trying to get more and more opportunities. I mean, think about it like this. Let's say you have 10 opportunities. Let's say you need to deploy $100,000 and you have 10 opportunities that come in a month, and you have to choose one of the 10. Well, those odds are okay. What happens if you only have 2 or 3 and you got to pick one? Well, what happens if you have 100 of them and you can pick one? And that's typically where we try to strive for. We try to get, the phone ringing, emails coming in, people coming by the office, and just try to get in front of as many people and try to have as many opportunities as possible, and then we can pick the one. And that's not necessarily cherry picking the best, because I tell you that we're willing to do every good deal that meets our mold. Whatever our box that we've created, every deal that comes in that meets that we'll do. And if we have to do one deal a month, I couldn't tell you. I mean, we've ever since 2007, obviously we've done more deals than that. But if we had to do one deal a month because that's all that exists that month, we would do it. And if we had the ability to do 40 deals a month, we would do that as well. 50 deals a month, we would do that as well. So it's as many deals as fits that box, we'll do. And our entire top level growth goal is to keep the marketing machine churning what's currently working, fulfilling and retaining the good clients that we currently have, plus thinking outside the box and creating new marketing strategies to keep as many opportunities coming in. And I think any business should be doing the same thing.
So you're playing the long probabilities, which means you're not, so you don't have to squeeze blood from a stone. A.
Yep.
B, you're increasing the efforts towards that in the understanding the market may turn. So you want to make sure that you are getting the best deals you can in front of you. But either way, I don't want people to be concerned with what we're saying. And in fact, I mean, we're still deploying $30 or $40 million a year into the marketplace. It's still a very significant amount of money. You just adjust as you see fit for what's coming. So you're not throwing the brakes on. You're just adjusting the business model a bit.
Yeah, exactly. statistically, the deals that have gone sideways, and not that they ended up being bad, but the ones that gone sideways are the ones that the borrowers couldn't properly execute or fulfill on the project, right? So those are the ones you got to be more careful on, and that's it. You use your gut feel. I mean, you know how it goes. How many times has a borrower brought a deal to you that says, "Oh, I can sell this for 220 or 225 or 240"? You're like, "Yeah, I think 200 is realistic."
Sure.
That works. And you know what? They're going to go find somebody else if they don't go with you that will lend them money off 225. And that's okay. I'm willing to lose a deal. I mean, I'm very open with telling people that, we've done over 100 loans for the same borrower, and we no longer work with that borrower anymore. We've done over 50 or 60 loans with our second biggest borrower. We don't do deals for them anymore. And the reason that is they're able to get higher leverage money. They're able to find somebody out there to give them a 150 loan when we're willing to do 130, or maybe they're even willing to do cheaper capital. It's one of those things that we stick to our business model, and I think that's important. And I promise anybody that's listening to this, because this isn't my opinion, this is a fact, that if we're willing to lend somebody 130 and that deal goes bad, I promise whoever lent them 150, they're going to get their ass handed to them. Yeah. That 20,000 difference is a big difference. I mean, we've had good, solid loans. I mean, think about this. Like, we've had loans that we wrote a loan of 170. The borrower brought $70 grand to the table. Our loan was 170. They had good credit, everything else. Stuff happened in their family. They walked away from the project. They couldn't execute. Keep in mind, a borrower walks away from the project. It's not like, oh, cool, let's just pick off where they left off. Like, it doesn't work like that. A lot of these times you're redoing a lot of these things, and we barely got out with just principal back at the end of the day, and we properly valued it. We ended up selling it for 260 or whatever the case was. So the lesson on that is, we lent somebody 170, they brought $70,000 to the table on a 260 exit. So if you do the math, 170 plus 70 is 240. Obviously, there's no room for profit there. So they finally got to the point where they realized they're not making money on this thing. So then the next thing they did was, okay, let's try to get out of this and try to get all my money out. Then they realized they couldn't get their money out either. So then they just walk on the thing. So those are things that, real life, real decisions that we make. But somebody who doesn't know the business, maybe doesn't know, someone else may have lent them off 300 grand. So that would have been an issue. Lot of different things. So, luckily we're able to, mitigate and get out of situations like that when they come, and they don't come a lot. 1 out of every 100 deals, sometimes we got some headaches with. But, that market changes. All of a sudden that 260 could be 230 or 220 or 200. So that's, the market can save a lot of people right now. But it's not always going to be like this. So it's time to be cautious.
It's time to be cautious. There's some really good parting words. Hopefully people rewatch what you were just saying. There's a lot of information in that small piece of advice there. But so Jason, I appreciate you coming on today, being here for everybody to hear. And as far as contact information, if you're in the Eastern Pennsylvania, South Jersey area, Ian Walsh, IAN at hardmoneybankers.com. If you are in the Baltimore, Maryland, DC, or Northern Virginia areas, just Jason at hardmoneybankers.com. Sorry, I might be losing you, Jay. So Jason at hardmoneybankers.com.
Yep, that's right.
Perfect, man. Appreciate it. We'll be in touch.